a long history as a day for challenging injustice. The Aboriginal singer-songwriter Kev Carmody concludes his powerful ballad, Cannot Buy My Soul, with a verse about Jesus entering Jerusalem on the first Palm Sunday. Carmody writes, Jesus woke one morning, rode a donkey up through the gate. He could see quite clearly he was going to face his fate. And the powers that be could see that he could not be bought or sold. They took his life and liberty, friend, but they could not buy his soul. Likewise, Buruz Bachani is a man whose soul cannot be bought. And there are many other women and men like him who are caught up in a system that robs people of their lives and liberty. In his book, No Friend But the Mountains, Buruz uses his humanity, courage, perseverance, and exceptional writing to challenge the oppressive systems that have stolen his liberty. I am thankful for his determination to challenge his incarceration and the cruel treatment of his fellow detainees. But there has been a huge cost wrought on Buruz and so many others. The mental, physical and spiritual cost of indefinite detention is simply not okay. We as a nation can and we must do better.
Rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I'll ask my Muslim colleagues to just come up a little bit so we can see who we are. Thank you, Canberra. I don't think I've seen this many people come out for a rally since the eve of the American war in Iraq in 2003. So that was huge. I think this is comparable. So again, thank you, Canberra, for being just wonderful people. During that war, the American war in Iraq, and the concept, and when I saw so many people, it was probably under one of these trees. I saw an elderly gentleman and an elderly woman in a frame coming out to protest. They were against that war. We have a concept in Islam called fitra. Fitra means, the concept of fitra is that we are all born free of sin. This is our belief. Everybody is born good, free of sin. This is our concept. It's called fitra. That concept of fitra stays with us throughout our lives, and that we as humans have an intensity or an ability to do good, and that in times of trouble we will tend to, most of us, do good and not bad, and that as human beings we are always seeking. It's the environment that we are born in, the family that we are born into, that may change us into people not caring. What I do know about Australia, when I was a little girl, I understood Australians in general were good people, that always did the right thing, that generally we tended to lean towards good and not evil. And that was something that started to really trouble me over the years, when we started to see a language of hate, a language of division, a language of the other. And through that language, our environment started to become very negative, and people were swayed into believing that somebody who comes from somewhere, looks different, different colour skin, was not worthy of our compassion. And sadly, for many in Australia, was caught up in that whole environment of hate. And we as Muslims have watched with such disbelief, with such a sense of, well, how did we get here? How did we get to the point where we are today, that we can put people on an island and treat them less than animals? I know in Australia we love our animals and we'll do anything to support the protection of our animals, but that we were prepared to leave human beings on an island with such disregard because some people told us this was the decision that a government of the day were going to do. And we were all, many, I won't say, and obviously people here, but there is a cross-section of our community who were swept up in the language. But they were swept up in thinking these people on the island were okay to be left in a condition sometimes less than animals. But it also started the language of hate and the language of the other, and that we could treat somebody from a different faith, as in the Muslim faith, as being less than worthy of anything. And that hate built up into a man from Australia going to New Zealand and killing 50 people, praying. Sorry. It's still, I can't. It still hits me that people could be praying, doing nothing else on a Friday midday but praying, not knowing that this one Australian who understood hate of the other to a level that he was prepared to pick up a gun and go and kill innocent people for doing nothing more than just sitting and praying. This is where we've reached to today. This is where we've become as a nation. And that's why it heartens me now to see so many of you here today speaking up for what is right and speaking out for what is wrong.
Politicians such as Scott Morrison and Peter Dutton, this kind of terrorist attack would not have happened. Unfortunately, no one in Australia, in the media, talks about these links. But these are a reality, and you cannot ignore what is happening in these islands. The effect on us, the islanders, and the people of Australia. Definitely, when a government like Australia is enacting this barbaric policy, it has a deep impact on the whole of Australian society. Again, let me remind you that there are a deep connection between what is happening in Manus and Nauru with what is happening in Australian politics. Liberals have learned dirty things from this exile policy. Things such as cruelty and the persuasive power of lying and hypocrisy in manipulating public opinion. That's why Manus and Nauru are a part of Australia and have had a big impact in political culture there. Today, it is a time for all of us gathering here to say no to all of these ugly things. I, as a person who has been involved in this plight, believe that many people in Australia have themselves been traumatized because of this barbaric policy. In the end, I would like to ask you, Australian people, to don't be silent in front of what the government is doing in Manus and Nauru. What is important these days is that the Australian people bring down this populist government to say no to dirty politics and to reject those politicians who divide people. It's the time that Australian people make a big law change.